the civilian population. We've just given up. I asked a question yesterday and I wasn't sure how service personnel would have viewed the question because I felt it was slightly vulgar. And I still do, but I don't know what else to ask about was it worth it? How can you say that when there are 457 people who didn't come home and thousands more injured and profoundly affected for the rest of their lives? Let's turn to Ash Alexander-Cooper OBE, a former British Army colonel who served 8 tours of Afghanistan and is a former senior advisor to the Ministry of Interior Affairs in Afghanistan. Ash, very nice to speak with you. Good morning and welcome.
Morning, Andrew. Thank you.
Can I ask you your thoughts? Because, you were at the very forefront over there. You had friends injured and you yourself were injured. So as Afghanistan, the story has developed and we've seen the Taliban come in, what have your thoughts been over the last few days, perhaps weeks?
Well, it's clearly a very precarious situation that's unfolding extremely quickly. And the tragedy is it's a human tragedy at the moment. The human cost of everything that's happening is absolutely devastating to watch, particularly from afar. And for many of us who serve many tours in the country, we have friends and colleagues who are absolutely terrified at the moment, who, as you just said in your intro, fear persecution and retribution for having supported the West in any form. And that is a huge challenge. And we mustn't forget that 71,000 Afghan civilians have already been killed since 2001, over and above the British military, the Canadians, the Americans, and others who are either killed or wounded. So it's a devastating situation that is unfolding extremely quickly.
I wonder if you're in touch with your contacts, friends, former colleagues, perhaps Afghan friends.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even just overnight before speaking to you, I've been trying to catch up on emails and text messages received overnight from people, some of whom are the lucky ones who've been told that they will potentially be relocated by the UK back with their families to be safe, but they are now in hiding because the process and because the situation is so fluid. They are now in hiding because assassinations are increasing in Kabul and elsewhere, and those, sadly, who were the least corrupt of those with whom we worked are the most at risk because they didn't play the game, and they're seen to be the legitimate targets for those who want to root out those that might still be West-leaning or have links to the West. So, yeah, I'm inundated, as are many of my colleagues, British colleagues and American colleagues, with former friends or current friends, but former colleagues in the country who are crying out for help because they're terrified for them and their families, more importantly.
And what can you do to help them? What can we do to help them? Are the UK government doing enough to help those who helped our effort?
I mean, there are significant changes that have happened recently. The Defence Secretary and others have made some changes to increase the eligibility of those who are seeking to be relocated, interpreters and others, and that's very, very welcome. But I think that the challenge now is that the pace of the situation unfolding, the rate of advance by the Taliban is meaning that the timeline is collapsing, and we just need to move faster, because the risk is that even people who've been accepted into the program, like this friend who emailed overnight, they still risk being left behind or missing the boat or the plane in reality, because it's just not happening quickly enough. So I think the government is moving, but we all need to move faster. So people, if anybody listening wants to get involved and keep the pressure up, then please lobby your MPs to make sure that they understand that this is something that we care about, because there is a sense of betrayal and abandonment from many in the country who gave everything for us and feel like now is the time to reciprocate.
Are we talking about interpreters? Are we talking about fixers, people who'll get a car when it was required, actors, guides? Who are we talking about? What sort of jobs did they do for us?
I mean, there's a variety of jobs that are listed as allowing people to be eligible for the ARAP program, as it is referred to here in the UK, and it does primarily focus on interpreters, those who were out mixing with the populations and their faces being seen and obviously being very, very overtly seen to support the West and the UK. But there are others in key leadership positions. I mean, we worked with many absolutely brilliant and loyal and professional police and soldiers and others whose families are significantly at risk now. I mean, one of my friends, he was told originally that his family could be relocated with him, but only those children under 18. And he has a number of children who are just over 18. And he was told, you can come with your minor child, but all those adult children you'll have to leave behind. And of course, an impossible decision for any parent to have to make. Thankfully, that is being reviewed, and many of the cases are being reviewed. But as I said, we just need to move quickly because the situation is deteriorating fast in some of these areas.
Wow. So our government were putting parents into a position of Sophie's choice. Choose a child. In effect, I mean, it's probably a dramatic way of putting it, but I mean, that's incredible.
I mean, it's obviously, an impossible decision for any parent to have to make. But hopefully we'll be able to get some of these things resolved.
And Ash, you yourself were injured, weren't you? How was listen, forgive me if I'm prying into an area that I shouldn't, but I'm quite intrigued as to how you got through that period and how you've been treated subsequently.
Well, my injuries, compared to so many who suffered devastating and life-changing injuries in a really major way, mine are very minor. I've lost feeling in a leg from losing a nerve from an attack that went on for quite a long time. A few bits and pieces that are annoying and inconvenient to me, but compared to many others who've lost limbs and suffer mental health challenges from their service, I'm one of the lucky ones. I think clearly our focus needs to be on the Afghan people currently, but I think there is another issue that we must be mindful of, and that is that for those who are suffering as a result of their service, may have been a physical injury, but those who may be suffering mental health challenges and are clinging on, trying to justify in their minds, was it worth it or not, when they've lost colleagues and friends, and the families obviously affected too. I do worry that there may well be an increase in the rate of suicides for those who are looking at the news now and see, actually it unfolding in real time and thinking, well, it clearly wasn't worth it in their minds, the way that they're trying to justify things. So I think we have to be very aware and ready to support those who may be really hurting as they see these things unfold, both the families and those who served.
It's good to speak with you. Thank you very much indeed for your time this morning and for directing our attention into the areas in which it should be directed if we're going to make a difference going forward. Get in touch with your MP. Have a look at the way interpreters and others who helped us, how we're helping them, and are we doing the right things? 71,000 Afghan civilians killed. Assassinations increasing. It's a remarkable situation and it's moving quick. It's Afghanistan. We'll return to it a little bit later on, of course.